Your hands safe, honey. Tell your baby daddy to find bitches here. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex,
And I'm Mary,
and this is
lawyering out loud.
a podcast about life, lawyering, and
All things that we're mad about.
well, here we are again.
Yep, here we are.
I had it again with the white vans. Episode 2, episode 3.
Yes, with a different setting.
Yes.
And why is that?
Because we work and capitalism be kicking ass. Delta wasn't about it, so they didn't ship me over to Miami. And you're a diva, and I had to come to.
Why are you out here lying to these people? Thank you. Don't do this.
Alrighty. So, anyways, we are virtual.
We are.
Different setting with my therapy glasses.
Oh.
That's what we're talking about today.
Girl, we are feeling out loud today.
Ooh. Now that's one. Child.
Now we got to tell the people though. Last time you came to Miami, we pre-recorded 2 episodes. We had no idea where they went. Because this is a 2-woman show. We're the ones recording, editing, all of that. So some things are going to happen, like losing episodes. And now we have to resort to virtual. We're going to keep it moving like we usually do.
Correct. Also, we got to tell the people, you can't get me in my feelings twice. I was all up in my feelings in that last episode.
You know what? I feel like maybe that's why the universe was like shut down. The people cannot see this. You was going in.
A mess.
You was going in.
Yeah, but today we won't give the people all of that. Trust, we have plenty of time.
Right. That's gonna have to be like an after hours one. Because
after dark.
Do we like that in our PJs? Okay.
If I get a little vino, I'll do anything. Bands will make her wine. What are we talking about today? What are we feeling?
Today we are talking about therapy, law school, more therapy. We're talking about lawyers in the news, insanity pleas. And I'm almost scared to say it because it gets you hype every single time. Affluenza.
I do really like affluenza now. You know I do. Let's get into it. Law school. Therapy. How's that for you?
Well,
therapy glasses on.
Oh, Lord. I've mentioned it in the past that the first thing you told me to do after I took the bar exam was to go straight into therapy. Thinking about it now, I wish I had really listened to you because law school takes a toll on you. And I think the best way I can describe it is law school is created to bring out all of your traumas and insecurities, even the ones, at least in my opinion and in my situation, even the ones you thought you had healed or dealt with. That was the experience for me. How about for you?
I think to me, the hardest part about law school was other people.
Period.
The other law students. People oftentimes are disillusioned about what makes the lawyers the way they are. And it's not the chicken and the egg argument. People with that personality go into law school and become attorneys. What law school taught me is that a-holes go to law school to become lawyers. Regular, nice people don't become a-holes once they're lawyers. These people are like this from jump. Oh yeah. And that's why lawyering as a profession has such deeply rooted issues in it. It's because we've created a profession that attracts that kind of folk.
That attracts and encourages those kind of folk, right? Because law tells you, oh, you have to be cutthroat and you have to blah, blah, blah. And that part is interesting for me because I didn't navigate my law school experience like that, right? I came with 6 years as an educator And so I knew that we could all win. I heard about people who were creating outlines and taking out pieces and giving it around and stuff like that. But I myself, nor the people that I associated with, were not with the shits. That was different for us, but definitely the majority of the people, a good amount of the people there were with that narrative.
That's not to say that they affected me personally in the sense like I was in these folks' circle. If somebody knows me, you know two things to be true about me. Is that I need two friends. I need a backup for when the friend is not available. I don't need too many people. And that remained true throughout my whole life. I had one friend in kindergarten, one friend in primary school, one friend in high school, about two friends in college, and two friends from law school. I don't need a lot of people. I found my people, and they were good enough for me. And I think what made law school still hard though is because our experiences as Black women, our experiences as people who learn from a very young age to analyze how other people, particularly non-Black people, move in spaces, were constantly reminded that this place is racist. I remember my first year of law school, I had a professor tell me my first semester of law school, before we ever even saw a single piece of grade, that I was not cut out for law school. This man did not know me from nowhere. This man had never seen my work. Because we have to remind folks, in law school, you go through a whole semester without being tested.
Yes.
So the true test of your abilities doesn't happen until like December of the first semester. So mind you, this man tells me somewhere close to like October that I was not cut out for law school. Where you get that from? Where you got that from? But when I say he racist, people are like, oh, it's the race card. You're pulling the race card. Well, what else I got to pull? This man don't know me from nowhere. This man don't know me from nowhere. He don't know what I can do. He don't know what I cannot do. As far as I know, he don't work for admissions. So all he saw was my Black ass, Black behind, rolling up the first day of school, sitting there. Clearly, by October, he had followed me enough to hear that I spoke with an accent, and he just assumed, oh, this must be a delusional person. Those things don't affect the outcome. They don't affect anything because you're gonna move how you move. But it does take a toll on your mental health because this man really thought he ate. Like he really thought he did something here, telling me that I'm not cut out for law school and presenting it as some sort of compassion. So respectfully, F you, Professor.
Okay. You and I have been doing advocacy work. We've done racial justice work. So we knew all this, but it was still hard to sit through it. Having to sit through classes where classmates were racist, bigots, sexist, and to have professors that encouraged that. There's a difference from everybody has their opinions, let's hear them out, versus who you see the professor validate, whose opinion the professor validates. That's the part that was frustrating for me. Like you said, you only need two friends. I went to law school with my best friend, right? We're going to put a picture of us right here because we cute. And my best friend, my road dog, she was my rock. Unfortunately, she was like my therapist during law school, along with you, because I remember I would call you often too. But the professors, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I think you're just so busy going through it that you don't realize the trauma you've acquired in law school until you're out. And in my case, I was out of law school during COVID. I was sitting and basking in that during bar prep, during all of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely wasn't just the professors. Law school is rotten at all levels, honestly, from admissions to graduation. You know some of my experience, like my second year of law school. I was sitting and minding my Black business, as I always do. People who know me know one thing about me. Don't start none.
Well,
Don't
be
finish none.
right.
Correct. I don't try to start conversation, start nothing with nobody. I'll be about my business.
Can I say
So
something real quick though? It's so funny because you're like that. but you project different energy. So people are always attracted to you and always wanting to talk to you. And you're like,
Please don't. Because I seem outgoing, and it's the fallacy for me. It's the persona for me. I'm like all in. Like I show up, so I'm like, and then I'm like, that's about it though. I'm like, we ain't friends. I don't know you.
right, that's definitely you.
Yeah, I have big energy, but I am not necessarily outgoing because honestly, social interaction exhausts me.
Mm,
If I am at peak social interaction, I got a good hour in me. If I'm going out for an event that's 2, 3 hours, I got to play the long game. The long game is you greet everybody, then you find a corner.
mm,
I just need to replenish. Like I run out of fuel very, very fast. So I can't just always be on 10. Hence why in law school, given the stress of all the other things I had going on in my life around law school,
right.
having casual conversation with white women was not something that I particularly partook in. This white woman graduated law school and ended up going to be a prosecutor. Let that be the backdrop against which you analyze this story. Took it upon herself to tell me and some other folks who were sitting down that they were doing study groups or whatever at each other's house. She took it upon herself to come tell me that she was afraid to have the only young Black man that not that I'm thinking bad, he probably was the only one in our class. She was afraid to have him in her house because she was afraid he was going to SA her. I was like, allow me to understand the premise upon which we have reached this conclusion. Because as far as I know, he was a very soft-spoken kid. He never, to me, crossed any line with anybody that I've seen. He was a big, very soft, very respectful kid who respected people's boundaries, who was very about his business. So the fact that she said that, I was like, okay, having read the history of white women with Black men in America, I know exactly where this was coming from. And I wanted to pop off. I remember this being the first time in law school where I really wanted to lose my cool.
Mm.
And ever since then, I could never have positive interaction with any of the white women that I went to law school with because they all was together. It was a clique of them. And I was like, birds of a feather. It ain't gonna work for me.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I was like, these people are going to graduate and they are going to represent people. What I did not know is that this very person was going to go and prosecute people.
And represent the state of Florida.
Mm.
But it tracks. But it
Mm.
tracks.
But tell me more.
If the legal career really cared about mental health, they would do better. And it starts from law school. But let's also address the fact that when you're applying for the bar and they literally ask you if you have any mental health.
Ableism.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to law school 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And at orientation, they had this huge focus on mental health. They had a huge focus on substance abuse. Right. Don't get too excited, Brent. And I was super excited about it because having come as an educator, I have my master's in theology and pastoral ministry. I was like, yes, this is where it's at. I had heard that lawyers have one of the highest suicide rates. So this was great. That was the first day of orientation. They provided pamphlets, they provided a speaker. After that, I'm not sure when it ever came up. Let's take it even a step further. I was in law school in the middle of the pandemic on Zoom while everything was going on with George Floyd.
Mm.
And no one in my law school had a conversation about what all the Black students or just everybody was going through, having to be at home, watch on your screen constantly what was done to George Floyd and what trauma it brought up to the Black women and men at my law school. I was having conversations with my friends where we'd be like, you can tell that the Black students are going through it because we would be on Zoom with the cameras on and they were not there. And no one had the decency to be like, let's have a conversation. And it was only brought on after, much gripe with the few Black professors who were like, no, we need to have a conversation about this. Like, our students are not well. And there was pushback on even having that conversation.
You know what's so funny? At least y'all got a conversation about George Floyd. It's almost like there's always major events when we're going to law school. My experience was somewhere around my last year of law school, the Trayvon Martin Zimmerman trial. And I remember being in a criminal law class, and I was the only Black person. As you know, I have a very nasty habit of showing up late to class in law school. This is my staple. Everybody know that. Alex gonna come late, and every once in a while.
Okay, but yes, but you were working full time. So I just needed to interject that because it was the staple, but nobody was asking you how you were doing. Anyways, go continue for it.
It's okay. I didn't care about these people asking me if I was okay. I know they didn't mean it. But I remember during the Judge Zimmerman trial, I'm pulling up to class with my usual 45 minutes and put my stuff down. Mind you, first thing that woman said, "What are your thoughts, Alexandra? I know you have something to say." And I'm like, my thoughts on being here? What? On what? Because I'm sitting here thinking, what's she asking my thoughts about? Because I just got here. She said, well, the Judge Zimmerman verdict, I know you have something to say. As you know, I don't be talking to nobody. So I ain't never talked in that woman class. So how does she know I had something to say? I wonder if it has something to do with it.
You're always bringing up race.
I won't do that. Because race don't have nothing to do with nothing. Right. Race is not the reason why we're here. Race is not the reason why we have this big White House in Pennsylvania Avenue. Like, race is not the reason why a lot of y'all family got generational wealth.
Race is not real in 2024.
I digress. Yeah. Because everywhere I go, I'm the DI hire, right?
Of course. You only got here because of affirmative action. You know that's the only way we got in here. Now, your experience with therapy is a little bit different because, and if you want to tell the peoples, you've been in therapy for a long time.
Yes, I have been in therapy for, oh lordy, 16 years. 16 years on and off, but mostly on. Mostly on, because some of y'all be talking about on and off, and it be all the way off. Because my mother passed away my first year of college. I started going grief therapy. And then my grief therapist was like, I think you should go to a trauma-informed therapist.
What is grief therapy?
Grief therapy is designed to address the instant short-term effects of loss and grief. Okay. And trauma-informed is just helping you maneuver the long-term trauma. A lot of trauma-informed therapists deal with folks who have childhood trauma. Thankfully, I did not. But I did go through quite a few traumatic experiences as I was grieving the loss of my mother, dating, the usual. She suggested I go to a trauma therapist, and that's where I met what I would consider my first real therapist, my road dog. I love this woman so much. When she had the audacity to tell me she found love and she was moving out of Florida, the audacity of her to tell me some man leave me after she was my therapist for 7 years. I do not wish her the best.
Take a bait. Take a bait.
I am taking it back because I think she's in a healthy and happy relationship. I'll be seeing her on Facebook and she looks happy. She better be happy. I'm not saying that I'm not threatening nobody or whatever.
Oh, no.
All I'm saying is, young man, you took something very valuable from me, my therapist away from me. And if I ever found out it's for nothing, it's on site. Over the years, I have become a strong proponent of therapy because I realized how much therapy have taught me to love the person that I am, to the point where I have become a repellent for certain personality type. And I enjoy that very much. There are certain men that would never talk to me when I was dating. They were like, you give sweet nasty. I don't give sweet nasty, baby. I give that I can't be manipulated, and that makes you uncomfortable.
Period. I'm writing that down. A repellent to some types. Yes. Yes. And you know what? I've only been in therapy for a year and a half. I think it came at such a great time in my life. I had just left the public defender's office for a first time. I would highly recommend that people who are taking the bar exam go to therapy immediately after doing the bar. People are currently studying for the bar exam right now as we speak. They have 2 more weeks for the bar exam. If you had to give someone some advice, what would it be?
I always tried to maintain some sort of work-life balance when I studied for a board exam. But I also understood that my experience to law school was different than most kids. A lot of people going to law school, this is going to be like their first professional job. This is kind of like do or die. I was working as a social worker when I was studying for the bar, but I did study really, really hard. I gave it my best, but I also said to myself, I know that I have put in all that I have to give, and it would work or not work, but I did my best. The last 2 weeks where everybody go AM to like midnight every day, I couldn't do it. I stayed at the same pace that I had been doing all summer. Mentally, it was exhausting. It's so isolating. You spend so much time away from friends, family, people. It was such a hard experience. With 2 weeks to go, you've been studying all summer. You got this. You got this. If you put in the effort, you're gonna do great. And we are not going to exist in this unrealistic fallacy that people who don't pass the boards because they didn't study. You study
Right,
really, really well. It just was not your time. You can do it again.
right.
You will be successful. You make it to law school because you're very smart. This does not define you as a person, whether you pass or fail the bar. But I'm rooting for everybody. You've put in a lot of work thus far. There's just nothing left to do, right? This is home stretch, home run. So now just go collect your victory. You have the finish line.
Love that. For me, I would say two things. Number one, make sure that you're sleeping. I'm a nap queen girl. When it's my nap time, it's my nap time. So if my body told me at 2 hours, that's it, you need a nap, you need a break, I would take that break. And 9 times out of 10, if I took a nap, I would make the connections that my body was telling me, like disconnect, disconnect, disconnect. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, this is what it means by blah, blah, blah. My study schedule was from 6 in the afternoon till 5 in the morning, which I didn't do every day. Some days it was 2 hours, some days it was 6 hours, some days it was four. Number two, find the time to distract yourself, whether if that's working out for you, that's working out. For me, I had a friend who was outstanding. They would cook for me on Fridays. So I knew that Friday night I wouldn't study. I would completely disconnect, sleep the entire night. And the next day, when I would wake up, it was like a refresh, it was a restart button. I would highly recommend to also get away from that one and done mentality, because although that's definitely what we're aiming for, we are not trying to sit and do this again. Yes. At the same time, that one and done mentality could be very crippling. As long as you did what you had to do, this exam is going to get what it gets. And it's either going to be enough or it's not going to be enough. And you didn't come this far to come this far. So,
Yeah, for sure. You and I got really lucky to have passed on the first try, but many people that we care about, many of our friends, many of people in our circles did not. And trust, I know for a fact I'm not smarter than these people.
when you're studying, they have the tracker that tells you you need to complete 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, right? Mine just kept falling behind. I know people who finished the program 100% and didn't pass. I know people who were top of my class and didn't pass. So again, it's a long haul thing, and it's more about, can you get a hold of your mental state over your nerves, over this bar exam that's telling you, we don't know if you're good enough, but you clearly are.
Correct. These exams, standardized testing in general, but the bar in particular is a white supremacist endeavor. And y'all gonna get tired of me talking about white supremacy, but guess what? This is the life I live, okay? Until Black people are trying to become lawyers in this country, there was no bar. So make of it what you want. But the truth is, the facts are When people of color engage in the system, there's a lot more at stake than white people,
Mm.
whether y'all want to believe it or not, because a lot of us don't have the support, the financial access, and then we have to work.
Mhm.
And we don't have families who can afford to support us to the journey. And the stress of I need to carry this through for my family is constantly weighing in on a lot of people's mind. Luckily, I did not have that stress, but I did have the stress of having to work. And it was very hard. And I know that there are people that it's even harder for because they have to work and they have to worry about being the first one out of your family, worrying about the fact that a lot of people in their family are counting on them finally get a break from the violence of poverty and capitalism. Like it's a lot of layers to it. So trust us when we saying this, we're not making light of
Mm-mm.
realities that come with trying to become the first or trying to be an attorney when you know that you're trying to do something new within your bloodline or within your family, that you're trying to be a pioneer. But the truth of the matter is your mental health is the most important thing you could have. To
Period.
become an attorney and to lose your mental wellness in the process would be devastating because you will not be able to practice if you're not putting in the work to become whole mentally. It's very, very hard. I've seen a lot of attorneys struggle. A lot of folks clearly are feeling the weight of the profession. And for many people, it started in law school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. I think it started in law school when they give you 100 pages to read the night before and you got 4 classes. So you got 400 pages that you got to read. And then they humiliate you when they call you and you don't know the answer, either because you didn't read or couldn't read, or you read and you didn't understand it because you're literally learning a whole new language. This whole system, including law school, was not created for us. It was not intended for us to succeed. So mental health is the number one thing that I tell my students at all times. That's what I'm checking in on. I have people that are taking the bar right now, and that's the one thing that I tell them: make sure your mental health, make sure you're eating, working out if that's what you do. Mental health is going to get you further than finishing a program and not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
So
And it's not always about mental fortitude. Sometimes if you want to cry, you could do that too.
that's a fact.
Restful as hell. If you want to just take a minute and just bawl out, do that. Do you have a healthy cry every once in a while? Because I know I do.
Do you have a cry playlist?
I do.
You do?
You done told my business.
Okay, top 3 people on that playlist.
I have some Adele on there. I want to give you top
She's
three.
on mine too.
That little
Well,
white British woman, she onto something.
whenever I'm in love. Girl, that one sends me. That one sends me. Sends me. Who else do you have?
No. We will talk about my other people. One of these people needs to be canceled anyways. Because he asked to be canceled. I love Daniel Caesar, but
You know what? He don't do it for me. He's
you know
not
what?
on my list.
I don't have a lot of songs from him, but I have like 2 songs. And then I have a song by Leon Bridges. Oh my God.
Which one?
I actually have 2 songs. I have River and Coming Home.
Oh, that's literally the 2 ones that I have too.
But
Girl, I have Adele for sure. I have Lauryn Hill, Gotta Find Peace of Mind.
I have big beef with
I
Lauren.
know, but it does it. It does it for me. It does it for me. I gotta find peace of mind. Girl,
Let's clarify my beef with Lauren. When I went to go see her ass in Miami, she was so late and I missed her because I had to go to work because she was supposed to come at 8, but got there at like 11:30. Yeah, I paid to see Lauren and then see no Lauren.
you can't rush perfection. I'm gonna stand by her. I'm gonna stand by her.
Thinking beside her.
I'm gonna stick beside her. She's a good woman, Savannah. So I have Lauren, I have Adele. Oh my God. Definitely Sia. Every single time I hear this song, Waterworks. It's
My
one of her
feelings.
older songs.
You know who's be getting me my feelings lately? Lennox. Yeah, music
I
is so
love,
much.
oh,
I relate. So
Thick Heart by Sia. No, no, no. The one that gets me, Breathe Me. I can't. I can't. You know who's also on my playlist?
her is good.
Her be on one.
Can I tell you about a song, like an unlikely song that be getting me in my feels?
Which one?
Okay, are you not gonna tell nobody? Friends, are we safe? Is this a safe space?
Yes, this is the circle of trust.
But are our friends who are listening to us telling me it's a safe space?
I don't know about that.
Fix You by Coldplay.
For sure.
Fix You by
I'll
Coldplay.
I'll find them if they judge you for that one. Cause yeah,
Like I can't even, I might start crying right now if we start talking about the
I'm
reasons of
literally playing it in my mind
I
right now.
love
I'm playing it in my mind right now and I'm starting to tear up.
Fix You by Coldplay. When I tell you Coldplay was deep in their bag with that song,
Correct.
Coldplay. That
Mm-hmm.
was cold for this. It was cold.
Mm,
Ate with that one.
yeah, you're right. For sure for that one.
But it's
I'm
the
not
best.
gonna lie, is today feeling like one of those days? It might. I might have to, play my little songs. Oh, girl. And when I play my playlist and I clean, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for everybody. It's a wrap.
To the Lord of emotions, I go, child. I be just my feelings. Sometimes I don't be knowing what I'm crying about, child. I just be going to cry.
Right. Me either. Sometimes I just release. We didn't even get into our gospel playlist.
Oh, child. We're gonna have to do a gospel episode. I don't know how we're gonna get the clearance for them songs, but I personally feel like I deserve a moment to hoop and holler about the Lord. And
Amen.
as you know, I'm not even religious. First of all, gospel music is like deeply spiritual
Yes.
and like even racial. Like Black people, gospel don't even have nothing to do with faith.
Mm.
Argue with your mommy. It don't have nothing to do with faith. Okay. When I tell you a little Clark sister, a little Kirk Franklin,
Mm.
uh, are we even talking about this? We not. Uh,
Can we talk about Tiana Taylor?
but, huh?
Tiana Taylor.
You know, I'm not that familiar with Tiana Taylor, but the few songs I know of her, she sounds good.
And Solange Knowles with that album that took her 7 years to make,
I am
baby.
ready. I am ready. Ooh, shit.
Okay, right.
First of all, can we talk about the fact that low-key Solange is more our speed than Beyonce? Like her style is more my style than Beyonce
I
style.
agree. I agree. I still adore
Ever.
Beyonce.
That is not me taking away from the queen or whatnot.
Right.
But I'm saying if they were not Solange and they were not Beyonce, and I was just listening to their music, I didn't know who it was, I probably would have picked Solange vibe over Beyonce's. Based on the line of music that I like, Solange music align more with
It's
what
a vibe. It's a vibe.
for sure, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Sure.
And I hate to close it with this one, but when this song comes on, it just, which is kind of weird because it's fairly new in my playlist. Willow, wait a minute.
Wait, hold on. Why you don't want to close it with that?
Cause I feel like we did some heavy hitters.
Listen to me. Willow is a heavy hitter. Willow is a heavy hitter. I'm gonna tell you this. I would never forgive Americans for making Willow's most famous song, this ridiculous song about hair. Willow is talented AF.
She is. No, 1,000% she is.
Willow is serious.
Mm-hmm. I love her.
What I'm trying to figure out is with the connections and everything that Willow has, I mean, growing up in the industry, I feel like she should be able to be bigger And I'm wondering if it's not on purpose, because sometimes when you grow up in some place and you see all the times, you don't want to be up in all the times.
She doesn't want to compromise who she is. And she knows that going mainstream, they're going to force her to do that. For her, it's sticking to who she is true to. And I love her for it.
It might really be that. It might really be that. We can
Yeah.
never fully know, but to me, the math is not mathing.
Right. No, 1,000%, especially with who her parents are.
This is intentional. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about protecting your mental health, right? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about making sure that you prioritizing what it is that is most precious to you, what it is that is not replaceable, what it is that is a gift that cannot be replaced.
Period.
If you listen to the pressures of life, it will be gone in a moment's notice. There will be no way to return to that.
Right.
And I think we have seen so many lawyers and so many people get to that place where it's honestly not possible to return. And it's so sad. And I think that should bring us to our next segment, is lawyers in the news. We have an attorney that literally had a similar experience, right? She's a Haitian attorney. Her name is Beatrice Bijou. She was in the news because she had an episode where she seemingly was having hallucinations. She said she was hearing voices. And we have to talk about prioritizing that within our profession. What do you make of the case of Beatrice Bijou? By all accounts, thriving, well-respected attorney, now has been arrested, has a record, likely will be disbarred, all because of mental health concerns.
Right.
What do you make of it?
First of all, it's so sad that it rose to that level, that it got there. This isn't something that happened overnight. And I would hope that as she was going through whatever she was going through, that hopefully there were people out there who were looking out for her. But it also calls into question just how unforgiving this job is. Attorney Bijou was diagnosed with schizophrenia, as well as she was suffering auditory and visual hallucinations. Even when you're applying for the bar exam, they kind of make it very daunting. Have you had any mental health history? Do you suffer from blah, blah, blah? You know what I mean? And instead of making it a safe space of, if you do, let's see how we can provide resources for you, it becomes like, well, if you do, you will not be barred and you are not welcome in the community, which is interesting because, for example, for me, more than 70% of my clients have mental health history. More than half of them, their mental health is what has led them to where they're at now in jail or prison, untreated mental health history. And so when I think about an attorney and how she's gone her whole life masking it or what triggered it, I can't help but think like what was available for her.
And also, if anybody is under any source of illusion or delusion that you cannot become mentally ill, you cannot become schizophrenic, you cannot become bipolar, you're sorely mistaken. Your mental health, just like a lot of aspects of your health, require regular upkeep, require regular care, and a profession that is consistently asking you to deny yourself of your authenticity, to deny yourself of rest, to deny yourself of a lot of the things that are essential to the human experience, is setting you up for a lack of mental wellness. Sitting here and saying that people are mentally ill or struggle mentally because they don't have the fortitude to become an attorney is a lie. That is why we end up with a lot of attorneys that are considered sharks, that are this, that are that, who pass away in their offices, trigger warning, who have certain ideations to complete suicide, to self-harm, because there's not a space to say, I am not well, right? There's not a space to say that I feel like I want to give up on this profession.
And then the failure and shame that comes from giving up the profession because you went to law school for this, your family had been waiting for this, and now you want to go and follow your dreams on something else? Absolutely not.
I feel like some attorneys is the pressure, right?
Sure.
It's the pressure beyond legal work. It's the pressure to keep up with the Joneses, being asked, oh, you're an attorney and you're not rich. You're an attorney and you're not this. You're an attorney and you're not that. Being everything to everyone around you, being the emergency response when Ray Ray gets arrested, when all you were planning to do was take off your jacket and have a meal after a deposition. Now, so and so son, so and so daughter, so and so child, and got arrested. And next thing you know, you're driving back on the same interstate that you just drove down to find yourself in county jail, to be everything to everyone. And if you ever have the audacity to even say, I don't want to do that, I don't consent to that, I didn't sign up to that, is you're selfish. You're not this, you're not that, right? Like when I decided to practice part-time, I fully expected folks to ask me, why would you do that? Why did you? We were making money. I did what I wanted to do because I knew that there was somebody beyond Esquire that needed to be tended to. So that's who I tended to.
I love that.
When you do that, some people judge you. Too bad I never give up. You know what? I will never be forced to do anything to keep up with anybody because I've seen so much within this profession. So much of this profession is smokes and mirrors. So much is unreal. So much of this profession is a lie. Like some of these people are drowning in debt, mentally unwell, unhappy families, children who don't want to speak to them, all in the name of making a name for yourself, being this, being that. I would rather be destitute than have children who don't speak to me. It's unfortunate what happened to Attorney Bijou, but I know exactly the kind of pressure that causes someone to reach that point mentally. So many organizations who had known that this was an excellent attorney were afraid to come out and support her because of the pressures that or the backlash they were afraid they would get from other attorneys from the Florida bar who clearly tries to detach themselves from attorneys who are mentally ill and present mental illness in the same way that they would present an attorney who does something unethical. We're not talking about the same thing. And mentally ill attorneys should not suffer the same fate as attorneys who are dishonest, who are liars, who are manipulators, who are unethical. But they do. They get disbarred, they get mistreated, they get tossed to the side. Many of them pass away and their families are left to pick up the pieces. It's so unfair.
I agree. And I think this brings us to our next segment, learning out loud. You've previously touched on it. We've talked about it in the past. You know how I feel about it, about affluenza, right?
In this segment, we really try to talk about the ways in which the law can benefit people, right? But this has to be a balanced conversation today because it benefits and disadvantages people because of the way it bends itself over backwards and contradicts itself. And this is the gift of white supremacy, right? You get to contradict yourself without having to be held accountable for it. Historically, the courts have always looked down upon the use of mental illness or any source of illness as a defense to criminality. The success rate of the insanity plea alone, I think it's about only 1%
Really low. Yeah.
of criminal defendants who make a plea of not guilty by virtue of insanity or who bring up mental illness as being a defense. So the charges being brought against them are successful. But we have this white child who decided to intentionally, I mean, I read the facts, and this is not alleged, this is on record, right? Engage in criminal behavior, murdered 4 people, and the defense was he suffered from affluenza. He was too affluent to understand the consequences of criminal behaviors. Like the kid on that TikTok video said, it's a motion. But that's the reality of the legal system. Like actual medical diagnoses might not held up to support one's claim of insanity, but affluenza is acceptable.
But here's the other thing. You know, this is what I struggle with. if being extremely wealthy can be the reason why you can't come to grips with the consequences of your actions, then why aren't we saying that about being too poor, about not having the basic necessities you need to live, about not having enough to eat, to live, for anything? So if we want to talk about affluenza and this defense that again, he couldn't calculate the actions of, which I'll tell you, it's a creative defense.
It's bullshit.
That was
Bullshit.
it's a creative defense. And you know what? Yes, I'll agree with it. I think some people, it's why we have so many rich people that act the way that they do, that think they can get away with the things that they do get away with, right? But then let's do the balancing act. If you could be too rich to gauge the consequences of your actions, and you can be too poor coming from that trauma to gauge the consequences of your actions. So for me, it's the double standard, right?
Child, if we can have affluenza, we can have COVID, okay? Because I'm too poor for this shit. No, I agree with you on that, but to be honest with you, I didn't find this defense to be creative at all. I did not find it to be legally sound, so I will not accept it. Oh shit.
The reason that we included affluenza in our learning out loud segment is because we also wanted to talk about the insanity plea and or the insanity defense. Remember that the insanity is not after the incident happens. They have to find that you were in that state at the time of the incident. Right. And how hard that is, right? When you can't prove at the time of the incident and someone is still going through that mental health crisis, is to find them incompetent. But only because you plead insanity or only because you're found incompetent, you don't get to walk away. I just want to clarify, for misdemeanors, you get to be set free. You can't be held in a state facility for a misdemeanor. But for felonies, at least here in Florida, the worst thing they can do is say, okay, well, she's incompetent or she's pled to insanity and she's going to a mental health facility.
You're not going on vacation, folks. We're not going to the beach. You're not going to be in Mexico City. Once that happens, you are going to be medically treated and you're going to be undergoing severely invasive medical treatment. And as it is in all scenarios, when the state has custody of you, you will not have freedom. You will not have the ability to have privacy. You would not have the ability to make a lot of decisions about very minor things in your life. So to think that an attorney who is successful with an insanity plea on behalf of their client actually won something is a absolute error. And I think media has done us a huge disservice in the way the insanity plea has been portrayed as a get out of jail free card.
Right. And it's not.
Nothing about the conditions of being in state custody. That is a gift. You are definitely on the losing side.
And we haven't even mentioned the fact that we're in a state-ran facility, but a mental health facility. And you already know that when it's not even a state health facility, how they treat people in mental health facilities. Imagine now when you are excluded away from everybody and most people aren't checking for you. We've had cases of people dying and they die in jail, they die in prison. But in these facilities, they're even more vulnerable.
This isolation will worsen your mental health. And that's the part that we don't understand. The isolation, the mistreatment, the lack of access to normalcy will worsen folks' mental health. But we know there's no investment in that. The investment is in getting the money, throwing away for criminalizing folk, having us believe that somehow we are morally superior to folk because they are criminal defendants and we are not. And somehow attorneys are better than their clients. But what happened when the attorney becomes the client? We don't want to talk about that. What happened when you go from the attorney who's arguing for an insanity plea for your client to the attorney who needs it for yourself? And is there a system, is there a place to humanize both lawyers and defendants, humanize both those of us who are fighting to keep our mental wellness and those of us who unfortunately have already gotten to the place where we no longer have it. Those are not conversations that we're ready to have in this profession because we have decided that ableism is our flavor of the day or of the century. But in the meantime, we are losing people. We are losing valuable people. We are losing people who are valuable to the profession. We are losing people who are valuable to this world. We are losing people who are valuable to their families. I think another thing that I've realized just in the professional world, a lot of people do things to check something on a list. And I think mental health was something on the checklist somewhere. I have not seen any initiative that, as somebody with a background in social services, would yield any sort of significant change for attorneys, because we're not talking about mental health days. We're not talking about bitches. I mean, till this day, I engage in conversation with attorneys who take pride in saying, I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years. You're not well. I was actually in one of those mental health events where an attorney said, I haven't taken a vacation in 8 years. And so many people on that call were like, oh, me too, oh, me too. And I'm sitting there in my head with my PTO balance being 1 hour in my office. And I'm like, is there a way I could get some of their hours? Even though we don't work at the same place and I don't know these people, but because I want all the days off. I want all the time off. I want mental health days. I want sick days. I want PTO. I want vacation. I want all the days off, because you cannot expect me to perform at 100%, 100% of the time, which is the expectation of the profession, and expect me to also be on 100% of the time.
Period.
This is a recipe for failure. It's a recipe for self-destruction. I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
But I will tell you that for me, it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
It always does, because society doesn't teach you to care.
Correct. And because my ancestors, my grandmother, my mother, these are people that I saw going to work even when they were sick. These are people who would send me to school even when I was sick, because to them, it's like, no, you need to show up. You need to show up. And it was really hard for me to learn otherwise, that it's not just about showing up, it's about showing up effectively. Again, it was really hard for me to learn that the way that I'm going to be a better lawyer, the way that I'm going to be a better teacher when I was teaching, the way that I'm going to be a better self is by pouring in me first before pouring in others. Because I can't out of an empty cup.
And I think that leaves us with just one little life hack. Go take a nap. Go take a freaking nap. Naps are not for babies, okay?
You don't got to tell me twice.
Everybody listening to us right now, once you're done listening to this, go take a nap. Go take a nap. And then if you wake up and you're still tired, take another nap.
Turn to the other side.
Exactly.
Girl, we support that. Period.
All righty, folks. I think that brings us to the end of episode number 3. This was Feeling Out Loud. And please don't forget to follow us on social media, L Out Loud Podcast on all platforms. And our email is loutloudpodcast@gmail.com. If you have a story of you feeling out loud, if you want to tell us about something we should be talking about, please reach out to us. Bye.
Bye.